Right now, in every ocean on Earth, orcas are hunting. In the fjords of Norway, they are spinning silver walls of herring into tight balls with their tails. In the icy waters of Antarctica, they are sliding in coordinated lines to wash seals from ice floes. Off the coast of Argentina, they are beaching themselves on sand to grab sea lion pups. In the Pacific Northwest, they are chasing salmon through cold gray water. They are separated by thousands of kilometers of ocean. Different diets, different traditions, different dialects of vocalization, different cultures. But what if that changed? What if one day every orca on the planet stopped acting like a separate population and started acting like one? The answer is more disturbing than most people realize. Most people assume that orcas already work together, and within a pod, they do. Marine biologists have documented complex hunting coordination, teaching across generations, mourning of the dead, and cultural transmission of techniques so specific that they are almost like recipes. But these behaviors are localized. A pod in Iceland does not know how to hunt sea lions the way a pod in Patagonia does. A pod in Alaska does not eat sharks. A pod in South Africa does not eat salmon. The oceans are big. Different populations of orcas have evolved into what some scientists call cultural species. They do not interbreed. They do not share vocalizations. They almost never encounter one another. In this way, the total power of the orca has always been divided, but biologically they are still one species, Orcinus orca, the largest member of the dolphin family, the most widely distributed mammal on Earth after humans, and they are equipped with something no other predator has ever fully possessed: coordination across cultures. Here is where it gets interesting. Marine biologist Lance Barrett-Leonard at the Coastal Ocean Research Institute has spent decades documenting how orca populations differ. Each culture has, effectively, its own operating manual. What one pod knows, another pod does not. When researcher Robert Pittman documented orcas killing an adult blue whale off Western Australia in 2019, the technique was specific to that region. When the male orca's port and starboard began surgically removing shark livers off the coast of South Africa in 2015, the behavior was invented locally and stayed local. Now imagine those techniques merging, not just being shared, being combined. The Antarctic wave hunting pod meeting the Patagonian beaching pod, meeting the South African liver hunting pod, meeting the Norwegian herring herding pod. Every hunting method, every echolocation strategy, every coordination formation pooled together. Every generation of accumulated knowledge available to every orca everywhere. There are about 50,000 orcas in the world today, spread across every ocean. In terms of raw numbers, this is not an enormous population. Compare it to 60 million cattle or 20 billion chickens. But orcas are not cattle. They are apex predators with brains structured for teaching, memory, and long-term planning. If every one of them coordinated, the ocean's food web would restructure itself within a single generation, because orcas already restructure it individually. In 1997, off the Farallon Islands near San Francisco, researchers Peter Pyle and Scott Anderson witnessed a single female orca kill a single great white shark. The remaining great whites in the region, tagged by researcher Salvador Jorgensen at the Monterey Bay Aquarium, left the area entirely. Some did not return for a year. One kill displaced an entire population of apex predators. Now multiply that by 50,000. Now multiply that by coordinated attack. Here is where it gets stranger. The science of animal cooperation, developed by researchers like Robert Trivers and later refined by biologists studying primates, wolves, and dolphins, suggests that coordination scales in ways that are hard to predict. 2 hunters are not twice as effective as 1. 10 hunters are not 10 times as effective. When coordination is added, the effectiveness rises exponentially, because the animals can now do things that no individual could ever do alone. A wolf pack of 10 can bring down a moose. A wolf pack of 1,000 could, in theory, clear a valley of every ungulate in a season. If every orca coordinated, the ocean's largest animals, including the blue whales that Robert Pittman's team observed being hunted, would not have a defensive strategy left. The Marguerite Formation used by sperm whales, where the adults face outward in a protective ring and the calves are placed in the center, works against small pods. It does not work against a coordinated attack from a network of pods communicating across ocean basins. The sperm whale, currently untouchable in that formation, would become vulnerable. The great white shark, already terrified of a single orca, would face something worse than terror. It would face a coordinated ocean-wide hunt. But that is not the strange part. The strange part is what would happen to the ecosystem itself. Right now, orcas are what ecologists call a keystone species. They regulate the populations below them. Where orcas thrive, other predators are kept in check. Where orcas are absent, mid-level predators explode. Ecologist James Estes, working in the Aleutian Islands, has spent his career documenting how orcas indirectly control sea otter populations by hunting them. When sea otters decline, sea urchins increase. When sea urchins increase, kelp forests collapse. The absence of an apex predator 2 levels up destroys the entire underwater forest. Now imagine every orca coordinating on prey selection, not for survival, not out of hunger, strategically, choosing which populations to press and which to release, managing the ocean, because that is what apex predators do at scale. They shape the environment. Here is the deeper question. What does an intelligent, coordinated apex predator do when it is not just hunting? What does it do with the leftover cognitive capacity? Neuroscientist Lori Marino has argued that the orca brain, the second largest on Earth by mass, contains an enlarged paralimbic system associated with deep emotional processing and social bonding. It is not just a hunting brain, it is a thinking brain. A single orca can decide, plan, and coordinate. A pod can execute those plans across multiple individuals. A culture can preserve those plans across generations. What could a globally coordinated species of orcas do? They could restructure the fishing industries of every nation, because they would learn quickly where the largest concentrations of prey were. Fishing boats congregate in the richest waters. Orcas would know. Orcas would arrive first. They would strip the fisheries before humans could reach them. Coastal economies dependent on fishing, from Norway to Japan to Peru, would collapse, not out of hostility, out of hunger, out of superior organization. You would wake up in a world where the ocean's food had a coordinator, and it was not you. There is a preview of this already happening. Since 2020, off the coast of Spain and Portugal, a small group of orcas has been attacking sailboats. They target the rudder, they disable the vessel, then they leave. Researcher Alfredo Lopez Fernandez has been tracking the behavior. It began with a female orca the team named White Gladys, likely after some traumatic encounter. But it did not stay with her. It spread. Other orcas in the pod started doing it. Then younger orcas. The behavior is being taught. It is being passed down. This is a tiny population, a few dozen orcas at most, and they have already begun to change human maritime patterns. Some sailors avoid the region. Insurance companies have flagged it. Governments are studying it. That is what a few dozen orcas can do. Now scale it up. If every orca on Earth was coordinated and one of them learned an attack technique on human vessels, that behavior would spread across every ocean within a few generations. Not because orcas are hostile, because they are learners, because they are teachers, because they share what works. The ocean, which humans have treated as a shared resource for thousands of years, would suddenly have a coordinator that could outthink us in it. Here is the deepest question of all. Would it be a bad thing? Marine ecologist Sylvia Earle has argued for decades that humans have overfished, polluted, and disrupted the oceans on a scale most people do not understand. 90% of the large fish in the sea are gone. Coral reefs are dying. Plastic has reached every trench. Every year, humans remove roughly 90 million tons of marine life from the water for food. The ocean is, by almost every measurable standard, being managed poorly. An intelligent, coordinated apex predator regulating the ocean might in some ways be a better manager than we have been. Orcas do not overfish. Orcas do not pollute. Orcas do not extract for profit. When they hunt, they take what they need and they teach the next generation how to do the same. Their populations are stable in most regions where humans have not disrupted them. They regulate their own numbers through low reproductive rates. They live long lives, teach their young, mourn their dead, and stay within the ecosystems they know. If they coordinated globally, they would still be doing what they have always done, just at a larger scale. The question is not whether they would ruin the ocean. The question is whether they would run it better than we do. And then something unexpected would happen. Because coordinated intelligence, once it exists, does not stop at the water's edge. Humans built cities. Humans built writing. Humans built the internet. All of these are systems that let information move faster than individuals could carry it. Orcas already communicate over hundreds of kilometers through low-frequency sound. In a coordinated species, information would move faster still, not through wires, through water, through pods that meet at the boundaries of their territories, through calves that grow up hearing the vocalizations of other cultures. Eventually, a species like this would know things. It would know where the ships were. It would know which coasts were friendly. It would know which fishermen respected the local pods and which ones did not. It would know when the storms came. It would know when the ice melted. It would know when the humans built new harbors. It would know where the boat routes were. You would live in a world where the ocean had a memory, and that memory was watching you. Now think back to the ocean you know, the one that stretches to the horizon, the one that seems empty when you look at it from a beach or a plane. Most people assume it is empty. Most people assume that the animals in it do not really coordinate, that whatever intelligence exists in the sea is small, scattered, incomparable to what happens on land. But the intelligence is already there. It is just divided. Divided by geography, divided by dialect, divided by cultural difference, divided in a way that has so far protected humans from noticing what the ocean is fully capable of. If those divisions ever dissolved, if every orca in every ocean began to work together, we would learn something humbling, that the largest and oldest environment on Earth is not empty, not passive, not ours to manage. That it has always been shared with something that thinks and something that could, if it chose to, run the whole thing without us. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, subscribe for more videos like it. See you in the next one.